$500 billion. That's how much tax money African governments lose every year. Enough to fund every public hospital, build thousands of schools, and still have billions left. And the leak isn't just in the shadows, it's in plain sight. 3 out of 4 small businesses in Kenya miss at least one tax deadline every year. Not because they're dodging the system, but because the system is built to be survived, not navigated. So what happens when you turn tax law into code and put that code in the hands of the people running Africa's economy? This episode is brought to you in partnership with Tanqueray Africa. Cocktails in hand, stories on the table, and a gentle reminder to drink responsibly after hours. Caine Wanjau isn't just a software engineer. He's the kind of guy who'll spend hours combing through VAT amendments just to save a business owner from a penalty that could shut them down. His work sits at the collision point of policy, product, and survival. And with Digitax, he's proving that tax systems don't have to be complicated to be powerful, they just have to work. We sit with him at the Jabu Bar and Rooftop Lounge, a beautiful, gorgeous space in the heart of the city, Nairobi, Kenya, to learn more. Welcome to Tanqueray Africa.
Great, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm Caine Wanjau, co-founder and CEO of Digitax. And as you've mentioned, we're in the tax space. We build software and solutions around tax compliance. Yeah, and great to be in the episode.
Great to be in the episode. Yeah. Before we get into the tax, could you just tell us slightly an overview of your career to get to here today?
Sure. So my career has largely been in technology for about 15 years. So I've had both experience in terms of working in a corporate setting, but also having my own companies that I had some time back prior to starting Digitax. Mm-hmm. In terms of things I've done career-wise, it's mainly been in the agritech space, in banking and finance, and also using technology in public transport as well. So technology focused, but in a wide range of industries. Yeah,
that's really interesting. Yeah. Normally, when we get guests on this podcast, they sort of find something if it's fintech and just go straight into it. Yeah. But really good to have you and have that contrast on here.
Awesome.
So, given your journey building your own tech startups, or just working in the tech ecosystem in general,
yes,
from the leading digital transformation at places like Twiga, as you've mentioned, what do you say are the most overlooked tax compliance? Or rather, yes, what are some of the most overlooked tax compliance challenges that are specifically faced by SMEs in Africa today? And how do these hurdles really limit the opportunity for growth and stabilization?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So maybe to zoom out a bit, it's good to understand what's happening across the continent. So a lot of governments and tax authorities are looking to modernize their tax systems. There are various goals and objectives around this, but one of them is to widen the tax base. So part of the drive to upgrade their systems, digitize their processes, is really around capturing the SME segment and bringing them into the tax bracket. Historically, any investment in technology has usually been done by large businesses or those who pay a significant amount of tax. But with the improvement in technology, reduction in cost of compliance, one of the target areas is SMEs.
Yes.
So to this end, what you find is SMEs are having to learn and adopt ways of working and processes that make them fully tax compliant, because previously it was really around periodic reporting and periodic filing.
Yeah.
So you do it once a month, once a quarter, or maybe once a year. But now you need to have systems and processes to do this in real time. So the whole idea around e-invoicing, because that's what's happening across the continent, is as soon as a transaction is due, or as soon as you generate an invoice, you share that information with the tax authority. So e-invoicing is now a real-time process. So for SMEs, they need to think through systems, solutions, processes, and operations to ensure that they can manage that transition for their operations. Yeah.
And what makes you different than what the traditional systems is offering? Like in Kenya, we use the e-citizen or iTax. So what specifically makes your platform unique?
Yeah, so at Digitax, we focused on 3 key pillars. So first one is ease of onboarding and ease of use. The idea here being, because this is new to many businesses, they need someone to walk the journey with them. So a business owner may come and say, look, I'm new to this. Help me understand how I get compliant in the right way. So we've built processes and tools and softwares to make that process of onboarding easy. And then post going live, that whole process of supporting you through your tax journey, content, webinars, also giving you the data and the reports to make that whole process easy for you. So how we've tried to differentiate ourselves, or our key focus areas, is best making sure that process is as straightforward as possible. The second pillar is around ease of use of the technology. So a lot of businesses have unique needs in terms of how and when they generate tax invoices. You may find certain solutions are more relevant for specific scenarios or specific sectors, but we've tried to make it as flexible as possible. So whether you're in the field, whether you have your own custom system that needs to be integrated, whatever the case may be, we're able to support you and meet you at your point of need.
Yes.
The third one is around ensuring that there's a high level of reliability and accessibility for our system. Now, some of the things we've tried to do there is, for example, ensure that when you send us information, you only need to send it to us once. So in case, for example, the main system interacts with is offline or unavailable,
yes,
we can still receive the information, process it, and then once we're able to transmit it, we do that on your behalf. So we've tried to, reduce the burden, so to speak, in terms of just, giving you less headaches. Because the thing about tax is, a lot of people can get anxious if things don't go as planned. You start getting worried about fines. Is there information missing? How does this affect my compliance status?
Yeah.
So the approach you've taken, both in terms of the technology, operation, and support, is to give you a 360 solution so that you have less to worry about, at least as far as tax compliance is concerned.
You've talked about the ease of compliance, and I want you to tell us what is the true cost of non-compliance beyond the penalties that people already assume. That is the only caveat that they have, especially for a business looking to scale and attract strategic investors.
Yeah, so there are many consequences from a financial standpoint on being compliant. The ones I'll highlight are, one is tied to the fact that when you're, for example, submitting your filings,
yes,
what's happening now is the data has to match in terms of what you've generated through e-TIMS or e-invoicing,
yes,
and the amount you need to pay. So, for example, if your expenses don't fully reflect on iTax, and that needs to have been submitted through e-TIMS or any authorized system, then you find there's a mismatch and you could be liable for a higher tax bill. So that's one consequence. The second is, a lot of businesses only want to engage with companies that are fully compliant, so you could find their lost business opportunities. So that whole piece around being compliant is actually now potentially a blocker if you're not compliant, because the businesses you're trading with need these records to be able to file the right taxes.
Yes.
So those are just, there are many others, but those are just but 2 ways in which being uncompliant could affect you.
Sub-Saharan Africa loses more than $500 billion a year, a figure bigger than the GDP of South Africa. In Kenya, 75% of SMEs miss compliance deadlines, not for lack of will, but because the system isn't built for them. The fines can wipe out a month's revenue. Countries like Estonia shows what's possible, filing taxes in minutes through fully automated systems. Africa's gap isn't ambition, it's infrastructure. Digitax is closing that gap, reconciling VAT instantly, integrating directly with revenue authorities, making compliance practical even for those new to digital tools. And now, with Zambia's e-invoicing rules in play, that blueprint is scaling fast. I find it interesting that you've built a product that makes these processes easier, but I do find that SMEs in particular try to find loopholes in which they work around the idea of perhaps, say, taxing everything or not taxing at all. And so, as you've said, there's a lot of there's some consequences that come with that. My question is, if they're already struggling to do that traditionally, why would I make the choice then that it is one important for me to be compliant, but more so make it easier by using Digitax?
Yeah, that's a good question. One misconception we've seen is that people associate e-invoicing or e-TIMS in this case with needing to be VAT compliant. Yeah, because that's how it's traditionally worked. But as I mentioned earlier, the whole idea is to expand the tax base, and different business segments have different tax rates. So you may find you may be under a category known as non-VAT, which still you need to be compliant, but you're not generating a VAT receipt.
Yes.
Yeah. Or the other taxes that may apply to you, like withholding tax or turnover tax. So a lot of it previously is a previous hangover from the fact that it was only VAT businesses that needed to invest in technology and generate tax receipts.
Yes.
And that's something being progressively addressed through tax education, informing people of their rights and obligations. The other thing to keep in mind is, with the way the changes are happening, it's important for you to also, ask for any expense that you have to have a tax receipt, because this will help you offset any taxes that you have, especially if it's taxes that are due at the end of the year, like corporate income tax, even VAT, because VAT at the end of the day is a ledger where it's just a balance between your debits and your credits.
Yes.
So in emphasizing on getting your tax invoice is important, because it'll help you be as tax efficient as possible.
Let's talk about accessibility now that we're on this. In the African context, a lot of SMEs are also informal sort of industries. And so my question is that you being a digital platform, how do you then make sure that even the businesses that you're targeting are able to even utilize the platform to be able to be compliant in any way, shape, or form? If they're already struggling with the traditional system, which should ideally have been seamless enough for people to do, how do we then tackle that challenge of accessibility or that digital transformation that we are trying to push for?
Yeah, so technology is continuous, always improving.
Yes.
It's never static. So the way I look at it is, provided businesses and industry is always thinking about how to improve the overall process, then we will get there eventually.
Yes.
To your point around informal businesses, one of the big decisions that was made was to simplify the process around e-invoicing as much as possible. That's why today you hear of options around USSD. There's what you mentioned earlier, e-citizen as options. But of course, there's some businesses who have specialized processes, specialized systems, unique like workflows that then necessitate a custom system or something that has been built by an entity like Digitax. So regardless of the size of business or where you are in your journey, you will find the right solution. The main thing is to understand how it helps you and make sure it's tailored to meet your needs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Allow me to pivot slightly.
Yes. Yeah.
And bring back the conversation on your experiences from your career progression to you being into Digitax. On a business perspective, what are some of the common things that you see with regards to success or failure or exit of tech companies? This being your third, fourth product, so to say.
Yes.
and you being in a scaling phase of just from startup, you told me, you mentioned that you started 3 years ago to where you are now, and how your past experiences have shaped up. The question here is, what are some of the differences in the different products, not in provision, but in the different ways that you manage to scale, succeed, or fail?
Yeah, so first is you need conviction as an entrepreneur. You need to be convinced that what you're doing has merit, has value, is long term. And the reason long term is important is there'll always be peaks and troughs. At some point things will be well, at some things would go as well. So you need to survive those days, those kind of days. The second thing is also understanding whether the macro or the industry factors support your thinking or your idea or your thesis. In the various companies I've worked in, there's always a clear plan around how you get where you want to get to. And that has to be believable. When people say we are solving XYZ, is a problem well understood. The biggest mistake I see is people building solutions that go looking for a problem. And that's usually the wrong way to start. Start with the problem and then think about the solution. So that's usually like a primary factor. And then once you're in, it's also thinking about, how do I get my customers or the market to believe in what I'm doing. Then third is just to understand the wider picture. So for us as Digitax, for example, we rode on the fact that there are these changes happening around e-TIMs. People are transitioning from a hardware-based e-invoicing approach to a software-based invoicing approach. And given my background in technology, I felt I have a domain expertise to participate in that space. So there was that aspect of also the industry knowledge.
Yes.
Then the other thing that's also important is to think about how this achieves its maximum output. When I say that, we looked at this not just as something happening in Kenya, but something happening across the continent. So we took a big picture approach in the sense that, okay, Kenya is leading and Kenya is one of the first countries to do it. And that's where this will, germinate from. But over time, other countries in Africa are looking to walk this journey of, digital tax transformation.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's how we thought through the opportunity and the idea around Digitax.
Yeah. And just to add on what you said, aside from that transformation, I just think in general, as a universe, we're going through a digital transformation, and so you would want to be at the forefront, or at least contributing to that in the age of AI, in the age of technology, in the age of cloud storage, and everything that is involved. I also do highly recommend us doing digitization when it comes to tax compliance. So given a scenario where there's someone who is very willing and ready to be tax compliant and use your platform, what are some of the common mistakes that comes to filing, and is there a way to mitigate those mistakes through Digitax?
Yeah, so filing has historically been a manual process in the sense that you take information from one system, then fill in information into another system, and there's no seamlessness, or there's no integration between the two systems. And so one of the goals around the invoicing is beyond, real-time visibility of tax receipts, is to eliminate some of these issues around data gaps or just effort around compliance. So e-invoicing in its ideal state should actually automate the whole process. So the big push around this is, by the time it comes to filing and paying for your taxes, the information is already pre-populated and doesn't need you to go take information like from your sales system, fill it in again. So e-invoicing is actually designed to address that specific issue. So in the fullness of time, I think it will be a very seamless process and operation. Right now, we're still in the learning and optimization stage. It will always be a gradual process, but the way I'd look at it is, in its end state, e-invoicing actually solves the filing issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In our previous conversation, or just before we hit record, you mentioned to me that you are present in 3 markets at the moment, and that is Kenya, Zambia, and Nigeria. And this is a question that I'm asking aside from a digital perspective and a business perspective. Every country has its own sort of rules and localization nuances involved. So how do you make sure that the platform or business that you're building has that element of localization while still maintaining a coherent product, or rather coherent product experience across the different markets?
Yeah, thanks. So that's where now I lean more to my technology side. So one of the things we were clear about early on when we were starting Digitax is would like to be Pan-African and even beyond if there's a justification for it. And so as we thought about our technology and our platform,
Yes.
we wanted to make it such that wherever you are in Africa or whichever market we are in, we give you a single, unified, seamless experience. So the way we've designed Digitax right now is all our users across different countries have the same platform, and we then configure the settings based on the market and the rules for that market and the sector you're in. So, for example, in Kenya, you could be, a tax-exempt business, and if you're a non-tax exempt business, we'll give you a tailored experience for that. Same applies in Zambia. You could be exporting goods, or it could be a local business.
Yes.
We'll give you a unique experience based on that. And the same will apply in Nigeria and any other market we're in. The other thing that we felt was important is for companies with operations in many countries across Africa, wanted to make it easy for them to basically have a standardized experience. So whether you're, generating tax invoices in Kenya, Zambia, Nigeria, and so on and so forth, you have a single platform and a single way of doing it. And to the extent that we can standardize and simplify the interaction through Digitax, it would give you that opportunity. The good thing is it's not a foreign or a new concept. Yeah. When you think about a lot of the apps we use in Kenya and Africa on a daily basis, they will give you a unique experience based on where you are. So if I open, for example, a ride-hailing app,
Yes.
your Bolts, your Ubers,
Yes.
when I open it, it'll first check my location and then give me, the
Personalized
vehicles in that
region.
the pricing for that region, the currency for that region,
Yes.
and so on and so forth. So we've done the same for Digitax, but now just from a tax compliance standpoint.
Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting. So why does this matter, and why does simplicity of this system matter even more, and how do you see tax tech in general shaping the Africa's digital economy, especially in empowering entrepreneurs to focus on scaling instead of surviving?
Yeah, so 2 things. Firstly is there's always an inverse correlation between ease of use and the complexity behind ease of use. So by us making things easy for our customers, which is our goal, we've done a lot of the heavy lifting in the background. So things like calculating your tax, determining which country you're in, giving you that unique experience, making it such that it seamlessly integrates with your platform if that's the route you go, or making it as seamless as possible in the sense that you take as few steps as possible to generate a tax invoice. That's really been the focus, abstracting complexity. So now us and our technical team on the other end will then now develop all the algorithms, the rules, and the logic to then ensure your information is sent to the right place. So simplicity and ease of use has been a big focus for us. And the other thing tied to that is also, thinking through how does this look in the end state. So today we're helping you generate tax invoices, but our goal is for us to deepen our relationship with our customers. We can offer you very many other value-added services with time.
Yes.
Because when you think about your tax journey as an individual, for example, the steps involved are, filling out the details, submitting them, getting an invoice or a document to pay against, and then going and making the payment.
Yes.
But with time, we want to turn that into a single or a unified experience. So that further simplifies the tax journey. And then, of course, with time, there'll also be very many other value-added services. But we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. We want to first start with our core proposition, which is simplifying tax compliance. And then from there, happy to then see how else we can make sure our customers have a more wholesome experience. Yeah.
Why should I trust your platform to be able to give you this money and make sure that you're able to be compliant? My taxes are able to be paid for and I'm compliant. Because, the origin of my question is, of course, in some ways you're a fintech, no? Or you would be handling some money movements, so to say. And I don't want to get scammed. There's a lot of tech platforms that come up every day. So why should I trust your platform to do it on time and to do it accurately?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So we are not a fintech in the traditional sense, but we handle financial information, because these transactions are essentially your sales data and what inform your tax payments. Now, we built our platform security at the core and from a privacy first perspective. So from a technology standpoint, we've ensured that one, the system is audited and follows international and best practice standards. Secondly, in every market we're in, we've ensured you've complied with the data privacy and data protection provisions. So, for example, in Kenya, there's something called the Data Protection Act.
Yes.
And there are certain guidelines that one has to follow. So we're fully compliant with that. Actually, even before even going to our first customer, we wanted to make sure we are fully audited and licensed in that respect.
Yes.
Then, of course, that's just getting started, but continuously one has to be sure and have the comfort that their data is safe.
Yes.
So we've built tools and services to ensure that information that only belongs to the customer is only accessed by the customer. Even we don't have access to that information. The reason that's important is, at the end of the day, a big part of your brand and your currency is trust. And, you don't want someone reaching out and saying, I think Digitax has messed up and my data is floating out there. So for us, trust is and the security of information is a big thing. And as we know it, you're always one mistake away from this being exposed. So we take a very proactive approach to ensuring that information is secure, is not in the wrong hands, and is only in the hands or in the control of those who need access to it. Yeah.
Do you then envision a future where platforms like Digitax influence as far as regulatory innovation and not just compliance? That is a fun question I want you to throw in there as well.
Yes, so the whole idea even around companies like Digitax existing is governments and tax authorities realize that there's a lot of innovation that can happen if they give us the tools and the guardrails. So, for example, in Kenya, we are what's known as a licensed third-party integrator.
Yeah.
And basically, we've been given permission by the Kenya Revenue Authority to go and integrate e-teams. Now, that's where the whole innovation part comes in. Why? Because your role is to go and understand customer needs, meet them at their point, and make sure that whatever information they're generating is successfully sent through. So now that's where your platform, your systems, your processes come in, and now that's where you provide the value add. It's the same thing in Zambia, it's the same thing in Nigeria, and the other markets we're looking at. So by default, innovation and value addition is our core mandate. If I go to a customer, they'll select Digitax on the basis of, I feel you can give me value add, and I feel your service is worth my time and my efforts and my investments. So by default, we have to think from an innovation standpoint. If we go and offer the same thing the tax authority is offering, then you might as well just go to the tax authority and integrate with them.
Yeah.
So we've always taken the mindset that we need to think ahead, work with the tools and the capabilities that we've been given and been licensed to provide, and then see how that best fits the business and the customer landscape.
Yes, that's a really good answer to the question.
Yeah.
I think as we wrap up this episode, I want to circle back and bring it back home into what not just tax, but what most of our target audiences are doing, which they're founders, investors, or people within the ecosystem. Taking it back from your experience to get to where you are now, it seems you've already also had a lot of pivots or several pivots, unlike a lot of people, we're still within the same ecosystem. And my question is targeted to you. What advice you might have to first-time founders or people who are currently in the weeds of scaling? Perhaps you've mentioned conviction is a very key part of it, but perhaps they have conviction in the right or wrong thing, but they also are scared to mess up or not mess up. Perhaps you've got pre-seed, seed funding, maybe you're not able to get to that stage, but we've had that there's a lot of startup death, so to say, within the African ecosystem. So what are some insights you can share on how to move on or work around those issues?
Yeah, that's a great question. It doesn't have a single answer, but I'll try my best to share perspective. Right? So the thing about being an entrepreneur or having a startup is you have to think about that major milestone and how you get there. And that milestone, it's not a straight line. Yeah, there's a famous chart which shows in the life of a startup, you'll have a big bump, initial excitement, building a product, and then you go through this what they call valley of death phase.
The valley of death.
Exactly. So the key thing is to keep that stage as short as possible and as shallow as possible.
Oh, it's a given.
It's a given. It'll always be there. Yeah. So the depth and the length is what you really want to control for, because one of the big misconceptions is you'll start something and a customer will come tomorrow. Between starting Digitax and getting our first customer, it was probably 2 years.
Wow.
And we had the benefit of knowing we're going to need a lot of time, and so we planned appropriately. Now, prior to maybe starting your startup, as you're still thinking about it, what you want to ask yourself is, are there proof points or are there things I can do that will help me know whether the idea is viable or not? Yeah, that's important. And it doesn't even have to be a tech solution. So, there are very many famous stories of, how Uber started, how all these other big companies started.
Yeah.
And they started off with simple experiments. Is there demand? Yeah. And then with time, they then fine-tuned it and built it into something much, much bigger. So if there's a way you can also validate demand, and even at not costs, if you do it for free or just try out something to see whether someone is willing to use it, that's usually the first proof point. Then from there, as I mentioned, think about that first milestone. If I look back at the investment space and how companies have been funded, there was a golden period between, I would say, 2015 and 2021, where it was all growth, and it was really not as hard to get funding. But really since 2022, the market has changed, and these things go in cycles. So you may find over the coming years, the interest and the demand may come again. But you also have to understand what's the investor sentiment at the point at which you're starting. How long will it take to convince someone to invest in you? What do you need to prove and to show that you're ready to receive an investment? It's important to know that, because if you know that, it'll also give you a lot of clarity. And you can't use history as a guide to a certain extent. What you can do is ask yourself, what's the landscape going to look at in the next 12, 18, 24 months, and where do I want to be? And at that point, what should I be able to showcase to someone, to get interest, customers, and investment? So that's how I tend to look at it. And I think given the stage and the phase we're going in, it's likely to pick up, but you also have to be conscious that, it's not like predictable exactly when it will happen. So you have to take like a moderate or bearish scenario and plan for that.
Yeah.
But if you're convicted, then just asking yourself, how do I give myself enough time to get to where I need to get to and convince the right people? Yeah.
To me, what it sounds like from your advice is thinking long term more than you ever think of anything short term.
Yes.
That seems to be the common theme that you've expressed, because you're thinking, okay, when I get to that first milestone, or if I'm going to be successful, what are the processes? If I'm going to get investment, and so what is the market saying? Am I ready, and how do I adapt to that? So
Exactly.
if there's a lot of pressure, or there has been, I mean, it's changing now, when you get, for example, VC investment to scale fast, but arguably scaling well, even if it's slow, because I think just the nature of the market, the African market, some startups tend to pick up a bit slower than typical markets out there. And so understanding that in each individual needs, because you can't copy someone else's thing, but a lot has to do with you and your own journey and focusing on your conviction. That is what is going to take you to the next level.
Absolutely.
My last question is, how would you like to close off this episode? What are some powerful insights and parting shot that you'd like to close the episode with?
Firstly, thanks to Alice and the team for hosting me. Much appreciated. My parting shot is in terms of Digitax. We're here to help. If you have any tax compliance needs, please consider Digitax. But more broadly speaking, I think for entrepreneurs, there are many opportunities around technology and what you can do with technology. You just need conviction, as I've mentioned. You need to have lived that experience. I think the best ideas normally come from, a personal challenge or a personal problem or a personal insight that you had. And that's always the best place to start your tech or your career journey. So thanks for listening in, and thank you once again.
Thank you. Yeah. You've done my outro. He's already said thanks for listening in. Thanks for listening in. Check out our website at mtsafrica.co. Of course, if you want to engage more with him or Digitax, download the app. And finally, you can check everything. All the details will be in the description. Thank you to the Jabu Bar and Rooftop Lounge for gracing us with this space right in the heart of Kilimani to have this podcast. And finally, thank you to the Tanqueray Africa team for being a prime sponsor for this episode over the past couple of episodes. So, yes, thank you, and I shall see you in the next one.